Hi, Mark here from the Tangibound Podcast Network and host of the flagship show, the Tangibound Podcast. Did you know that we over at Tangibound are always looking for amazing podcasts to promote? And did you also know that we are also proud nerds and geeks of everything from movies, music, gaming, TV shows, and comic books to wrestling, MMA, soccer, and football? Whatever you can nerd or geek out about, we've got it. And if you're interested, we can help you find it. And if you're a show looking for a place to call home, we've got you covered. Side effects may include upset stomach, dizziness, tumors, shakes, and in some rare cases, death from excessive laughter. Though to be fair, it's only sometimes. Other side effects may include diarrhea, gallstones, heart palpitations, and strong desire for cookies on the dark side. Talk to your doctor and visit TangiboundNetwork.com and see if Tangibound Network is right for you.
Sucks to the last drop. Are you gonna blow your head off? Take good aim and don't forget to duck. Life sucks every Monday and all the way to Sunday, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I don't care how you're doing, what's up or how's it hanging. I'd like to buy this world one last drink. Life sucks all of the time. Stick it up your sunshine, and then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day.
Hey everybody, welcome to a new episode of The Crazy Life. I'm Brian, joining me as usual is Henno.
You know, occasional.
Yeah, right.
Joining me is occasional.
Yeah, joining me is this guy. Some guy off the street.
Some guy. Still so
Sorry,
good.
that's so a joke from another podcast. Anyway.
Yeah. Hi, Brian.
Yeah, howdy. No Jen this week, which is unfortunate because this is our 150th episode. Yeah. So, you know, she can't be here and celebrate with us, but that's all right. She should be back next week or something.
I think she said week after.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, so
she blocked out 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah, that's right, she did. So, okay, I lied. She's not going to be back next week. The week after, whatever.
Busy.
Yeah, I guess. So wow, you know, 150 episodes for me of this show is really blows my mind, you know, cause when we started it, I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know if we'd like doing it completely, if it would help, you know, us, not just anyone listening, but you know, that it would just help us by being cathartic or whatever. And, you know, it's turned out to be, I'm so glad we did, you know, from the people who've told me that it's helped them to knowing it has helped me, you know, because like you said, Henno, for me, it's basically like a second a second therapy thing.
Yeah.
You know, and it's weekly. So, you know, it helps me kind of dump some of the stuff I need out of my head. But, yeah, I didn't know if we'd go this far. So, and it was just because I didn't have expectations. It was just, we went in and we were like, well, let's see what happens, you know?
So, if anybody out there, open up iTunes, just because you get a better perspective on this, and go into podcasts on iTunes, search for The Crazy Life, and then look at the list. It's really impressive.
Yeah, and we've covered.
It's really impressive.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and let's see, May 17th, 2015.
Okay, so we're coming up on an anniversary then, technically too. Cool.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
Neat.
I was on episode number 7.
Is that where you officially joined us, or was that just the first time you were on? Because I think you were on once before, or twice, something like that.
That was the first time, and then
Actually, I think you were on the show, and then me and Jen, like, that night had a conversation about asking you to join. So it was pretty quick. It was, either the next week or 2 weeks or something like that. It wasn't very long. And mainly because timing, things with your other podcasts, opened up a spot in your availability.
That was interesting too, because because then I think I'm back on episode 23. And then it looks like I mentioned a little more often. Oh, yeah.
Okay. Maybe that's what it is. Then maybe you were on again, and then we were like, hey, we should just keep him.
Yeah. Yeah, because then all of a sudden, there's at somewhere around 32 something. But I was, that's about right, because Angela, I was hanging out with her last week, and she had brought up, how long it had been. And I said, it's been almost 3 years. And she's like, because she asked, she's like, how long have you been doing the Crazy Life now? And I was like, it's been almost 3 years. And she's like, has it really been that long? And I'm like, yeah, it actually has been.
Yeah. It really doesn't seem like it. Like, it really doesn't feel that way, and which again is probably just because, we enjoy what we're doing here, and, and it's helpful. So it's, you don't, I don't know. It's never been a chore. Like, I don't want to do this show. And actually, it has been once or twice, but even then I was like, this is the perfect time to do the show when you're feeling that way, because, I can express that more, or, realize that it's, you guys can help a lot of times when I'm like that, kind of a kick in the pants, and then I'm like, all right, let's do this. Yeah.
Exactly.
So, well, I'm glad you joined the show when you did, and,
Thank you for asking me.
And I know Jen's glad that, you joined us too, because I know when you were on before you officially joined it, we had a lot of fun when you were on, and it's, and plus, we talked about some stuff. I remember when you first came in, I think we talked about some stuff that you guys had also talked about on Angela's awesome podcast. And, it was kind of cool to be like, hey, go listen to this. There's a great conversation on this. We're going to do something different.
Yeah.
Cause I've always liked doing that. Like when Tony and I talked to somebody for the enthusiasts, I always try to avoid the asked a million times questions. I try to give it's like, I like with John O'Deener, when he was on the show, I actually posted a link or two from another podcast that he was on where he explains a bunch of their backstory, and I was like, I'm not going to ask him about this again. This is perfect. Like, it was done well here. I'm not going to try to improve it. So that's kind of how I felt here too, was it's like, well, if we want to talk to somebody about whatever topic, and we know you guys did a great show on it, if we do one here, now it's not just one show. Now we can put two shows together,
Exactly.
And there's different perspectives and such. So, yeah.
No, it's really great. I'm having some fun right now, just looking through the list going, wow, what an amazing set of topics.
Mm-hmm.
Absolute amazing set of topics.
Yeah. We've talked about a lot of stuff on here.
A lot of stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff.
Some of it we obviously weren't as familiar with, like when we had Neil on, and talked to him about, his head stuff,
CTE
head traumas
stuff,
and stuff. Yeah. That's a pretty heavy topic, and, still looking back, I love the fact that he came on and talked about that, because a lot of people wouldn't.
Yeah.
They wouldn't want to, which I understand too, So that was awesome of him to do that, so that somebody listening might be like, and I know you and I both have paid more attention to the CTE news and concussion news since then, because we've talked about some stuff, and, so it helped us in that way, because it made us become more aware, because, we know somebody that kind of fits in with some of that. So it's.
Yeah. I think that's one of the greatest fits for me is, looking up articles of, different ways of looking at life, different ways of communicating, different things that people, suffer with or just deal with,
right?
Whether it's in their head or their, their relationships or that kind of stuff. It just makes me more aware in general of other human beings.
Yeah.
And what they do. And I'd like to say it makes me a little more of a compassionate person.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of funny. It makes me less tolerant of people that aren't tolerant.
I have definitely found that. Yeah.
But, and you know what? No, I take that because that's always the thing that I always hear about. It's like, oh yeah, for you talk about being tolerant, but you're not tolerant. And it's what it is I will readily say I am not tolerant of people that don't show any genuine compassion for other people.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is by actually being able to relate to somebody, even if they don't experience what they're going through. If somebody that I either listen to or I read what they say, and if it's always about, their thoughts and opinions on something, but they never share any experience or anything that backs it up, or, any sort of compassion or thinking of how it must affect somebody else, then I really don't have a lot of interest in you as a human being any longer. I just don't, because this show has made me really look at that a little more, and to really look at the people that are legitimately suffering.
Yeah. Yep.
I
get you.
And, I would rather be that person.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I agree. I've been a lot of the same way in that I've become more tolerant of different things. And now I'm much more, and I've always been the kind of person that if I didn't understand something, I look it up. That's how I was raised. If you didn't know what a word meant, get the dictionary, Now it's if I don't know what something is, I Google it, and I'm adult enough to admit when I don't know something or don't know about something, I don't try to pretend or, whatever. And this has made me do that quite a few times too, because I'll read something and not quite get what they're talking about. So I've got to look up something else because I just need a different explanation, And you never know. You could listen to, a variety of people and just not get something. But, and I've had, a couple friends that I've talked to about some of our topics and then gotten a different understanding, which is awesome. And the biggest thing I think I'm going to take away from this show is, first of all, like I've said to you and Jen, I don't think I've said it on the show as much, but, the fact that I can go back to episode 1, 2, whatever, and go, wow, I'm not that guy. I can see that I've moved away from a lot of that. So it's a really cool thing to kind of look back on. And, I guess that's it. I don't know anymore. Just
yay, congrats.
Yeah. And you know what? Now that we've patted ourselves all over on the back, thank you to anyone who's listened.
Oh yeah.
Especially if you've been with us since the beginning. But no matter where you came in, even if this is your first episode, welcome. And,
thanks to our friend Clint for coming on and joining us every once in a while.
Yep. And this has been fun. I've really enjoyed this way more, I think, even than I thought. Cause I think when I first went into it, even though when Jen approached me to do the show, she was like, I want to talk about this stuff, which is very serious, but I don't want it to be heavy. And I think for the most part, I think that, we've done a good job of that because a lot of these things are heavy. Depression is not a funny thing in itself, but I can find humor in stuff around it, and, not offend anyone or not minimize them or anything like that, so it's been a good learning experience all around for me too.
So this is kind of fun. Since I still have the iTunes, page open, at the bottom of it says listeners also subscribe to the Salty Language Podcast, Gotham Lights Podcast, 12 for a penny. Moving the Needle, Dark Angels and Pretty Freaks, History of Bad Ideas. It's like
I wonder why.
all of our friends.
Yep.
Couple Things podcast.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I always like when I see that, because it's just, you're like, this is cool. We're all bunched like this,
Yeah.
you know, because these are people we're friends with. These are our friends.
They
you
literally
know?
are, yeah.
So that's always awesome.
I love it.
Yep.
So this week I celebrated 11 years without a drink.
Congratulations. Or do
Thank
you like it when people say congratulations, or would you prefer something else? I've never asked anybody, and I know I can ask you without, you know, offending you, because you know I'm coming from a good place, you know.
Yeah. No, congrats is perfect. Yeah,
So.
it really is. It was very different for me this last week, and I'm bringing this up right now because one thing is I went to my men's group to acknowledge it. It was the only place I did. Used to be I'd go to several other meetings and things and birthday meetings and whatever, but I just I honestly said I am hardly the poster boy for 12-step groups these days. And part of the reason is because I get a lot out of doing the show, you know, that we do here.
Yeah.
I hadn't seen a few people and talked to them about my vacation last month. And, you know, one of the things I said is I was able to, you know, up and out and get into the right head place because I was able to talk to you guys about this within a day of getting back.
Right.
And to have a completely different perspective that I would not have had if I wasn't doing this. And, you know, there's parts of it where I go, I am not as actively involved in, you know, I'm my group's treasurer. And so, you know, I still do something, you know, from a service standpoint and all that, but I'm not as involved locally, you know, in my immediate community
Right.
than I could be. But I also have to weigh it with the fact that I get so much out of doing this as well.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, I don't, in no way is this an endorsement of this, and do not follow my example. But since doing this show, I go to therapy less than I did, because I'm finding that before I would have like a buildup in me basically. And it's like, I need to get this out of me. And therapy was my, you know, place to do that. Now this also is in that aspect. So it's made me feel like I don't need as much or as many visits to therapy. You know, like I said, not endorsing that. Don't use the show as a substitute. My perspective will be different because I'm doing the show.
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And one of the things is I was telling Sharon about this last week. It's like, you know, I'm not going to drink tomorrow. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
I'm not.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen. However, there is something that could happen tomorrow that is very relevant, something that we've talked about, whether it's, you know, distorted thinking or that kind of stuff. That will happen. To me, I do need to give back what was given to me, and that's part of 12-step programs is to do that. It's really that stress from the beginning, and so I do need to still you know, talk to other alcoholics and share my experiences, because I never know when somebody might relate to something that I said and I could be useful to them.
Yeah.
And so I still need to do that. But for me, from what I get out of it, I get more out of the topics that we talk about because they're more germane to my day-to-day life. And, you know, like one of them was last week, Sharon was out house sitting, and it was kind of late at night, not eating an early dinner. And, I had done the Gotham Lights podcast, and I was like, oh, you know what? A bowl of cereal sounds really good. And I grabbed my cereal and I poured it into a bowl, and I went to grab my almond milk, and there was hardly any left in it. And I have not had any of it. And it was sludge at the bottom. And I always shake up the almond milk.
Right.
and this is not the first container that is just vanished. And I totally lost it. And I was completely a brat and passive aggressive.
Right.
And the cutest thing is it was the day before my sobriety birthday. And so the next day, I walked into my office. I was out, running around, and I walked into our office, and there was a bottle of almond milk. So, because Sharon was great. She's like, "Are you going to divorce me?" I said, "No, I'm reserving that for the last bite of chocolate if you ever eat that." She never has, ever.
Right.
It doesn't matter what candy bar it is. The last bite is always left for me. And so,
see, if it was me, all you would get would be the last bite. I'd eat all the rest of it and just leave you one bite.
But on my desk was a bottle of almond milk, a Hershey chocolate bar, and a card, which it made me laugh. It was awesome.
Yeah.
So that was great. It was funny because I was even at work. I mean, I knew it was coming up on Wednesday, but I was at work. It was probably about 9 o'clock where I was like, "Oh yeah, that's right. I know what today is." But it's not as, it's a big deal, but it's not as big of a deal as it used to be.
Yeah.
Just the more time goes by, to me, it was just another day, It's
Yeah.
really what it was and really how it should be.
Right. Now, out of curiosity, do you feel like, cause I know you've said various times, like you just said, you're not going to go drink. At any point in these years, was the like birthday part of it, did it add any like pressure to you? Like, I don't want to blow this streak, basically. Like, was there anything like that? Or did it just not really influence your behavior?
No, it never did. Yeah, it never did. I lost the craving so quickly, and I stopped thinking about it so quickly.
Right.
I know for a lot of people it's different. There are some, right now I think I'm in a dangerous place because I do happen to know that a lot of people that I know who relapsed, and at this point it's not a relapse. It's more of a choice to just, to go back to drinking. It's
yeah.
And that it didn't work out. And I know a lot of people with between like 9 and kind of 13 years, somewhere in there.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard many stories about that around a decade, because what happens is people go, it's more like this. It's more like, well, I've been doing this for 10 years, maybe things are different out there.
Yeah. Right.
Or maybe things have changed for me or whatever it is. And I feel no reason to experiment with that at all. And I don't feel that pressure. I know a year it was hard, but it'd be one thing if I relapsed a lot in the beginning,
mm-hmm.
but I didn't.
Okay. Yeah.
So I just got it. It's never really been a big thing. And a lot of it also is because early on I stayed very connected.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was really important for success, was to really stay, like we talk about all times. It's like stay in the middle of the herd.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's definitely better than, dealing with it yourself or whatever, for sure.
And anytime you hear someone or anytime I hear someone that has walked away and has come back in, the first thing it says is stop going to meetings.
Yeah.
That they all share that,
Yep.
And they stopped being connected. And, that's the only thing that right now I feel a little, I wouldn't say nervous about, but let's just say I'm a little more conscious of it, is I was like, okay, don't lose your connection. Yeah, I have a lot of different interests, but, it's that connection. And so that's why I love having my service position still,
mm-hmm.
And all that.
Well, like we talked before, about like therapy and stuff, how, don't quit going because you're feeling a little bit better or whatever, it's like, make sure that, sometimes that's the best time to be in therapy so that you don't crash, essentially.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. And as long as I'm, losing my cookies over almond milk and cereal, there's always work to be done.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I laughed at it after about an hour and a half.
Yeah. Understandable. Yeah.
But yeah, not my
Right.
pretty funny.
I like it. Yeah.
Yeah, but other than that, it's been pretty good. Weather's been really weird around here, and I was really kicking. Friday morning, it was supposed to rain, and I decided to sleep in, and it was about 10 o'clock, and it was just gorgeous outside, and I was like, I should be up skiing right now. It's like, I really, it's like, these are the last 2 weekends of the year, and, I did pay for this pass and stuff, but I took the dogs for a walk, and, did things around the house, and played more music, went and worked out. I got another April. We're doing another challenge with a Twitter group. Mm-hmm. And this one from, once again, Courtney from the Shrink to Shrink podcast and the Quadcast. He threw up he just sent a photo to everyone, and it's literally every day a series of, it's X amount of push-ups, X amount of squats, X amount of lunges, X amount of sit-ups, and then there's optional plank, and then there's rest days. So, you're doing something and it ramps.
Right.
Like you're starting with like 7 or 8 push-ups at the beginning, maybe 50 sit-ups, but you're ending with 250 or 250 squats. You started with 50 squats, you're ending with 250. The push-ups, you're only ending with 25 or 30.
Yeah.
But plank, you're at the 2-minute mark for plank. And now you don't have to do it all at once.
Yeah,
you
right.
do what you can. But this is for every day, and it's really cool because it's a group of our friends, people that we know.
I actually remember reading something where that basically that circuit is, if you can do it in, I think the thing said, 20-ish minutes. And it was basically like, do this every day, basically, or every other day kind of a thing. And like, it'll just change. It's not about like, I'm going to get skinny or whatever. It's just, there's good strength stuff in there for core, your arms, your chest, all that stuff gets used, especially in those planks. Man, 2-minute plank.
Yeah. So it starts with like 25 seconds.
Yeah.
30 seconds,
I know. I was doing them for a little while, and I was around that range, 25, 30 seconds was kind of where I topped. It's funny how long it can take to go 5 or 10 more seconds, because your body is just like, nope, at one point.
Last month we didn't do anything, but the month before, February was plank, and we were trying to do 3 minutes a day.
Right, but not all not at one time, right?
Not all at once. Yeah. Or was it 2 minutes a day? I can't remember. Whatever it was, but it wasn't anything bad. And I thought I could easily. I thought for sure I could do a 1 minute plank, but I couldn't.
Yeah.
Like I thought, okay, this isn't that hard. Now by the end, I could, I could do over a minute. But it was interesting how it's like, it's something that I do a lot already. I do a lot of push-ups. I do that kind of stuff. And you think, okay, this isn't that big of a deal. And it's just like, okay, yeah, no, that's not so easy.
Right.
And then like when I fell behind and all of a sudden I had to do 5 minutes or whatever just to make up. Yeah. That was fun. But it was great because I noticed a difference. Like you said, you're doing these little things every day. Yeah. And you think, okay, it's not that big of a deal to just do this for a minute a day and occasionally have to do that. And it's really not, but it was awesome to just after 2 weeks to be like, oh, wow, okay, I'm noticing a difference. And,
well, and I think a lot of it is because now it's a little different than it was, but it's like most people don't focus on their core. If they're just casually working out at home, they're probably hitting, hitting the arms and doing some, whatever else, riding a bike, elliptical, whatever you have. And, that plank just, it's so hard until you develop any sort of muscle there, cause on cause on the arms and legs, it's not as bad, I mean, it burns after a while, but the core is where you're just like, I can't hold.
Yeah.
It's funny.
It was, I'd be like, okay, I'm going to flip on my side, do a little to the side, do a little, whatever it was. But, one of the things over the weekend is I went to the gym on Friday, and I've been putting more weight. It's like I am no longer injured, and it feels so good to like pick up really, really heavy dumbbells and do exercises that I hadn't done for years. And I jumped in the group, and I wasn't, I did my little series for that day with weights. Plus, I really pushed myself. I felt it the next day, and I felt really good. And here, my point is that I'm not trying to show off. I'm just trying to to stay accountable, to stay connected, because the reality is, and this is what I said to everyone, it's like, you guys inspire me.
Yeah.
This is inspirational for me to not stop, because I am inherently lazy,
right.
And I can blow stuff off, but if I know that everybody else is doing what they're doing, and it doesn't matter how many sets they're doing, none of that matters. And like even today, somebody said, I decided to do some extra squats, and I was like, awesome. That's why we're doing this.
Right.
And that's why we're being accountable to each other. And it's, no different than what we do here on the podcast.
Right. Because your list of exercises there, it's like, well, this is the minimum you're shooting for today. Yeah.
It's
like, and anything you do over that, like you said, it's just gravy. So
and when everyone's throwing up saying, I'm doing some extra, it's like, awesome, that was great.
Yeah.
So. So that was roughly my week. How about you?
It's been a pretty uneventful week. We went out. I went out with Tony and Jeannie and T and his girlfriend Michelle. We headed out to a brewery on Friday night that was insanely busy. And it wasn't horrible when we got there, but it got way worse. Like, people just kept coming in, and there weren't that many leaving. So,
oh no.
Yeah, so we, at one point, we had all had like one beer, I think, and it was like, let's go cash out and go somewhere else, because this is just, it would have probably taken, I don't know, half an hour to an hour to get another beer, like that kind of thing. Yeah. So it's like, this just isn't going to be that enjoyable. We can't try different beers that we want to drink, and it's just, let's do something else. But as we left, I told Tony that, I hadn't quite realized it while we were in there, but I was starting to feel stuff closing in on me. Like when I got outside, I noticed that I immediately had I don't know what the word for it is, but I didn't feel as heavy. Like I felt, as though whatever was grabbing me let go, kind of a thing. And what it was anxiety, because there were so many people in there. It just feels like it's closing in on me. So, and unfortunately I didn't catch it. Normally I kind of feel it happening, but this time I didn't. Otherwise I would have went outside for a minute, because that's all I need generally is just go outside for a couple minutes and see open space, Once I have that visual, I'm usually okay. But yeah, that stunk a little bit, but whatever, Then we went back to Tony and Jeannie's house and just sat around and talked, it was a good time. Nothing crazy or anything like that, but it was still, for me, nice to get out of the house, nice to, be with friends, that kind of stuff. Always was good. And, I can't really think of much else I've done this week. So, as I did, I've noticed like the last couple of days I've been so meh. Like, actually it's more than meh when I really think about it. Like it's today I almost did it was like 6:30 when I got out of bed. And I got up a few times to use the bathroom. That was it. I hadn't eaten, didn't take my medicine, just in bed, didn't care, hardly looked, like almost didn't look at my phone. I looked at it once, I think. I just didn't care. I don't know why, it's just happens, and it was that way, yesterday too, a little bit. So actually, you know what? I do have a thought on why. I didn't think about this until just now. Is, realistically with the medicine I'm on, I'm not supposed to drink, because the drinking can negate the medicine. And I probably had too many. Like, I didn't have very many. I had like 3 or 4. You know, it's not like I drank like 20 or something, but I probably had more than I should have, I guess, you know, and maybe because I felt kind of weird later that night. And then Saturday, I felt kind of off most of the day, but I was like, you know, whatever. And then I felt meh. So I don't know. That may have something to do with it, as it's, you know, got to build back in my system. I don't know, but you know, whatever. Usually it's like, it was most of the time when I have like 1 or 2 beers, and I don't feel any different as far as, you know, like medicine or whatever. And actually, my doctor told me that. He's like, you know, he's like, you can have a couple beers. He's like, don't go crazy, you know, which very understandable, because why am I taking these medicines if I'm just going to go drink 20 beers, you know?
Yeah.
That's, you know, why not take one of those things away? So yeah, that's about all I can think of. So, you know, other than being excited because WrestleMania weekend. But if you want to hear about that, you go listen to the salty language, because I go in depth over there. I really nerd out about it. So, for anyone who doesn't know, I'm a huge WWE type wrestling fan.
I offered to blow off the podcasting tonight, just in case, you know?
Yep. I almost asked. And I was like, you know, kind of like, man, that feels like such a bad reason. But at the same time, it's like I told you, it's like, to me, you know, in the wrestling, like, this is the Super Bowl kind of a thing. And I'm always excited to watch it. Plus the internet tends to try to make, you know, tell me what happened before I watch. And because it's on their network and it's on, demand, people in different places are watching at different times. So I basically have to stay completely Facebook and Twitter dark until I watch it. Because if I don't, at any time, something could pop up. So, and I even have to watch like Snapchat, because sometimes, people I follow every once in a while, they'll be like, ooh, congratulations, so-and-so. I'll be like,
you're like, you ruined it.
Yeah, I had that in one of the pay-per-views, and it was the main event too, so I was like, So, yeah. I mean, I'll watch it though. I mean, I've watched a lot of older wrestling, you know, over and over, so whatever. But I just prefer to walk into it dumb, so, or naive. Not.
And I just happened to listen to a podcast all about it today. So when I got home, I was like, oh, that's right. You know, maybe we'll have to postpone podcasting, but. Right.
I think I did when, the day of the Royal Rumble, I think I did. That I was like, I think it just worked out. Because I think I was going to ask, and I think either you or Jen had some reason you couldn't record then, so we did a different day or something.
It worked out perfect, yeah.
So it just worked out, yeah. But like I told you, it's not really a big deal, because when we're done, I can just, you know, pull up the network and start watching it. Yeah. And there's generally less people watching, so the feed's usually a little more stable. So.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of addictions, I was going to talk about my having to send my phone off for repairs.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And everything that went into this strange little conundrum. So I have a cracked screen that wasn't that bad, and it hasn't been that bad, except I've dropped the phone a couple more times since then. And now it's gotten a lot worse. And it's just, you know, it's at that point where it's like, okay, let's get this thing fixed. So I jumped on to, you know, my little Assurian, you know, insurance plan. And the one of the questions was, does the phone work? And I was like, well, yeah, it does. You know, has it been dropped in water? No. Okay. So it's just the screen. Well, we can fix the screen for $29, or you can get a whole new phone for $150.
Right.
You know, deductible. And I'm like, I actually considered the $150 because I'd have a new phone by tomorrow versus the $29 because I live in the mountains that I'd have to mail.
Right.
And not have a phone for 3 days maybe, because they literally next day everything, right?
I'd be miserable.
But I literally sat there and thought about it. Like, okay, well, it's $120, but I'm not without my phone. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding.
Yeah.
Like, you can't, So
yeah, it'd be different if you did business through your phone or something, you know, to where it's like, no, I have to have a phone on me, you know, yeah.
Yes, exactly.
But you don't.
I don't.
Yeah.
And so, sure enough, this was on like, I don't know, Thursday or something like that. And Thursday, it was actually Thursday. Actually, I started it in the morning, but I had to finish it after work, actually, on Thursday. And they said that they would get a mailing envelope out to me by Saturday. I had it by Friday.
Mm-hmm.
And if I was in Boise, I could have actually dropped it off and had it repaired, like same day.
Right.
But I'm not, so I have to mail it. And at first I was like, well, I'll just send it and get it back. But I am on call at work. So I was like, okay, I do need to, I'm primarily on call from Saturday night until Monday morning. So I'm like, okay, I do have to keep it at least through the weekend, and then I'll send it off. But I'm still like, okay, what an addiction.
Right.
This is terrible.
Well, here's an extra funny bit is that you have an iPad. So
I do.
You really only can miss the phone itself, really, because you can text with the iPad. Well, actually, you could call with the iPad probably too. But you'd have to use Skype or FaceTime. But but you could, a lot of the stuff that you could have on your iPad if you wanted to. But yeah,
it's funny because the part that's making me laugh is I am still rather isolationist when it comes to certain parts of my phone. Or, I'm sorry, my device usage. This is not about it being a phone, but it actually is a phone.
Mm-hmm.
Like phone calls, voicemail, certain text messages, later.
Yeah.
What I'm really good about is when I get home, I tend to put the phone down and I don't really pay much attention to it right away, which is really good. But what it is it's something when I'm bored, which happens at work every once in a while. That's where I'm looking. And it's like, that's where I was like, no, this is a good thing.
Yeah.
This is a good thing for me to send it off on Monday. I'll probably have it back by Wednesday.
Right.
Thursday at the latest. Big freaking deal. Like I said, I got my iPad. I can communicate with anybody.
Yeah.
There will be a few things that'll be inconvenient. A few, but not many.
Right. It's not like you're all of a sudden off the grid or something,
No.
and you can't use anything. So, yeah.
It was kind of a riot. Yeah.
I'm with you though. That is really funny you were considering that, because as soon as you said, or I could get another phone for $150, in my head, I immediately subtracted the $30 and went, and I was starting to do that and then you said it, and I was like, that's really funny, because I thought the same thing. So, yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Even though it's funny, because I'm home most of the time, so I easily could just use an iPod. Or my iPad, I mean, I'm not going to miss much of anything. Yeah.
Yeah. They even have a pickup and drop off service in some cities where they'll come to your work, pick up your phone, fix it, and then bring it back to you by the end of the day.
Oh, nice. That's pretty convenient.
Very, very nice. Yeah. $30, but I was literally considering the $150.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I'll say this. I'm proud of you that you didn't do it. So, cause if you were sitting here telling me you've got a brand new phone coming tomorrow, I'd be like, what are you doing? Like, I would have done the same thing, but what are you doing?
So my power word resolve has barely worked.
Right.
Because I bought a power supply last week. I have never spent that much money on a power supply before.
My. Wow.
Ooh, Lordy. I'm just gonna come clean. It was something that I've wanted for a long, long time. Mm-hmm. And it actually does make a difference. This is for a piece of audio equipment, and it was like literally a third of the price if I'd bought it new.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, okay, I've been looking at this thing for like 2 years, and I finally was like, okay, I'm just going to buy it. And so I did, and I got it, and it actually sounds better, but still, it does not work with my power word. Because do I need it? No. Did I want it?
Well,
yes.
Here we go. Here's how I'll make it all right for you. is
Okay.
since you've wanted it for 2 years, that was before the power word, so it gets grandfathered.
And I did wait until there was a 10% eBay bucks refund. So,
Yeah.
I ended up getting something I needed with that, with the 10% eBay bucks I got back that came on April 1st. So,
Right. Yeah.
but that's me just justifying shopping.
Right. Yeah.
Ugh. Yeah. Yeah. I'm a spiritual giant. I'm telling you.
Yeah. No, that's why I said I would have done the same thing. If I had the money and they were like, "Hey, new phone," I'd probably be like, I could get a new phone.
Well, actually, and here's the thing: is you get a refurbished phone.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
And I've had one go bad like immediately.
Right.
And so I thought, I'm probably better off keeping the one that works for a while.
Yeah.
And
I'm with you.
I'm saving
I would
myself
do that too.
$120.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you'd feel really bad if you did go, yeah, I'll take the new phone, and then you get the phone, and like you said, it dies after a day.
Yeah,
because you just laid out $150 for it. Like,
folks, and I still end up not having a phone for 3 days.
Yeah.
Because then I got to ship this one back.
Right.
Blah blah yada yada whatever. Although they don't do that, they're pretty good about just sending you something next day. Which
yeah,
I'm pretty impressed. So
yeah. Which makes sense because of the reasons you basically just laid out. Most people, if they were without their phone more than a day, they're going to freak out, Yeah. So I've been around people when they've, they're like, I can't find my phone or whatever. And it's so funny because it seems like that's all that's on their mind. Which, don't get me wrong, I can kind of get, because sometimes people are like, there's sensitive information on my phone, or what have you. So,
gotcha. Yeah.
sensitive pictures as well, those kind of things, but, that's, don't lose your phone. No, don't quit dropping your phone, Hanno. I
know.
Jeez.
Well, once I dropped it the first time, the first time it was literally a legitimate kind of an accident, and it fell onto rocks, So I mean, it was kind of like, okay, well that just sucks. It didn't. I had a case on it and everything, and it just nothing was going to save this. Happen. It just was a fluke. But then after that, I just didn't really care, so I dropped it. I was like, I'll get another case when I get the new phone. And so they're waiting. I've got a case, screen protectors, everything waiting for the new phone. So
right. Nice.
I get it back, then I'll buff it all out.
Yeah. I'm curious to see how your withdrawal is.
Well, that's why. I'll be checking in.
Because you're right. It's going to be weird because, you think about
it. Is.
I don't think most people think about how many times they pull their phone out when it's just whatever. Like you said, you have a few minutes of boredom, boom, you're on your phone. You're in a waiting room, you're on your phone. You're waiting for fast food, you're on your phone. You're at a stoplight, phone. You know what I mean? It's like all these little things to where you're only on the phone a couple minutes or something, and you're gonna really notice.
Oh, I know. I've already in my head every time I'm on the elevator. I mean, I've already gone through it all.
Because, I've been in elevators where I couldn't get a signal for whatever reason. And it's like, come on. I'm going 4 flights up or 4 floors up, It's like, dude, you can handle 2 minutes without your phone. No, I can't.
Yeah. Yeah. So this will be a new experience. Maybe I'll try some meditation.
Yeah. How without your phone? No.
Oh, it's terrible.
Oh, man. Yeah. Talk about first world problems,
Oh, seriously.
Oh, I'm going to be without a phone. My supercomputer and a phone. I
mean, I seriously do want, I honestly want my life to be where my internal well-being and my, just my connection to being okay in my own skin, to be all the abundance that I need, that I don't need any object or thing or piece of equipment to identify me or give me satisfaction. But you know what? I'm a defective human.
Like I'm working on it.
And this made it very clear.
Well,
oh Lord.
At least it's something you are going to use. You know, at least you didn't buy something that's like, you know, I've wanted this for a long, and it's just going to sit in a box or something. You know, you can justify it that way a little, very little, very.
Yeah.
Oh man.
So we do have a little topic for today.
Yep.
An article that I found on the New York Times, and it's a little bit of a bummer, but I think it's very, very important information.
Yes.
And it's best that people actually go read this article themselves, and it has to do with antidepressants and addiction and withdrawal symptoms, and pretty darn severe ones. And so the article from the New York Times is on April 7th. Many people taking antidepressants discover they cannot quit. And it starts with some, little anecdote of somebody who had been trying to stop, and it took 9 months to wean herself off of Zoloft by taking increasingly smaller doses. And when we mean by smaller, it's not like having your doctor telling you to go from 10, milligrams to 5.
Yeah.
This is like literally opening up a capsule and taking out 2 of the little balls inside there. And then the next day taking out 4, or using a vial with a small dropper, that kind of a thing. Because what this article points out is people are experiencing dizziness, confusion, fatigue symptoms, and some of them very severe, and then they go away immediately once they start taking the antidepressants again.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons given for them not really having ever – so the drug companies didn't have a lot of incentive to study this. They looked at smaller period. Originally they thought that this was going to be something that antidepressants people would take for temporary. It was really never like they didn't think people were going to be on antidepressants for years and years and years and years.
Yeah,
and there wasn't a lot of research done.
And starting them as early as people are now. There's a lot of people starting antidepressants, in their 20s or teens, whatever, instead of like a lot of people is probably a little older, now it's this large group of people taking these. So yeah, it makes sense that they look into it now.
Yeah. And here's the thing is so there's some really sobering statistics here. One of them is nearly 25 million adults have been on antidepressants for at least 2 years, which is a 60% increase from 2010.
Wow.
And some of the statistics about women, were really, really interesting when they say that women make up 1/5 of the population, but they take, or this was over, specifically, this is from a study. White women over 45 account for about 1/5 of the adult population, but account for 41% of antidepressant users. So a 1/5 population is almost half the users, and that's up from 30% in 2000. And older white women account for 58% of those on antidepressants long term. It's a huge difference. Minorities are dramatically different.
Yeah.
But that's really beside the point. The point here is to help people. And the article goes into the different, the quote unquote half-life. Like for example, some of the antidepressants have a longer half-life, meaning it takes longer for your body to get rid of it, get rid of the drug out of your system. So it tends to not be as harsh of a withdrawal than people who take like Zoloft and Effexor, which leaves your system a lot quicker. Prozac seems to be one that takes longer.
That's really interesting because I was on Effexor, and you know what though, I can't really, I didn't wean off of it, so
you had to harsh off
I
of it.
cold turkeyed it because I didn't have a choice. And the effects of that were horrible for a while, you know.
And that's, let's say, is like, if let's say you were on Prozac, because it would have taken, it can take up to a couple weeks to leave your system. So so people that are on Prozac, if they stop taking their meds for about a week, they hardly even notice it, I guess is what the point is. But something like Effexor, you're going to notice it right away.
Yeah. I could go, if I missed one, like I only took one a day. But if I didn't take it, I'd notice it the next day. You know, basically that it was like, I need to, I bet I didn't take that yesterday. It was I don't really know how to describe it, but you just know, like you feel weird, like the world feels weird. So it's, you know, you gotta get it back in.
And a lot of people who they like to use the term being parked on antidepressants. You know, if people are if their life is better, that's all that matters. And that's why there weren't a lot of studies by the manufacturers, because, hey, if life is better, then there's no reason to study someone, you know, getting off of this. Government doesn't have necessarily a lot of incentive. However, countries that have socialized medicine do have an incentive, because
that's true.
Yeah. So a lot of these antidepressants are being prescribed by primary care doctors now, more so than, so they're not necessarily people that are seeing a psychiatrist. So they're having, you know, or their therapist helping them. They have a primary care physician just prescribing this because, and one example here is someone that had real bad PMS, and their primary care physician said, try this, it'll probably help you. And it did. And then when the person tried to stop taking it after 20 something years, it was horrible, as described. And so because of that, places where there is socialized medicine, they're now seeing the people coming back and having the difficulty getting off of it. So they're actually doing the studies. So this is the good news, is studies are already underway, and there's already one that's been in effect for over a year with a control group, and they should start getting the information. You know, one group was told that they were being weaned off, and the other one, you know, they were both being told they were being weaned off. One wasn't.
Yeah.
And so they're going to be releasing those results. I think that was a New Zealand study. But a lot of other places are going to be studying this. And here's the main point about this is, if you need to be on, this is how I'm taking it. If you're in a place where you need to be on antidepressants or any sort of drug like this, do what your doctor tells you. You know, if it can help you, it should help you. Don't avoid it. Now, some people here said that they wish they'd never done it because their symptoms were so bad. Because some people do have those little brain zaps and that kind of stuff like that.
Yeah. I had those for a while after going off the Effexor.
I know someone that had those too.
Long time. I had them for, I think it was about 6 or 7 months I had those. And from what I've read from other people on like Reddit and stuff who've also done it, that most people tend to get those brain zaps and they suck because they feel like your whole body gets restarted. You know, it's not fun.
So the thing is if this is something that's going to benefit you, please do it. But be aware that right now, this is the main thing, is like, let's say you do have a temporary case where you need to, you know, where you will benefit, something's happened in your life and you can benefit from antidepressants. You know, my take on that is, you know, do what's going to help you get out there and live your life and do what you need to do. But be aware that doctors today do not have the information to help you wean off of them necessarily. Right. Now, this doesn't mean that this happens to everybody. Yeah. And what they call it is discontinuation syndrome. And it's like, some people can get off an antidepressant, no problem. I have a friend that did. They did a standard weaning where it was like they dropped 5 milligrams every so often. But they're looking at now with some people who do have a difficulty that it can take from 9 months to a year or more by literally weaning off in micro amounts.
Right. Yeah. Because like I said, my withdrawal symptoms probably didn't go away for about 9 months. That's about how long I had most of them. And there were even a couple that lasted longer, but those were, you know, like I was still having a few of the brain zaps after a few, you know, but it was just every once in a while. And like now I don't get them. So, well, I'm on an antidepressant though, so.
Yeah, and that's the thing is that was the thing that became very apparent is people that were having these symptoms, as soon as they were put back on it, they went away.
Yeah.
And there's even a psychiatrist in here that said it took him 1.5 years to wean himself off.
Wow.
Off of an antidepressant because he was literally doing like that, the 2 little balls at a time. You know, now we're at 4, now we're at 6
right.
out of a capsule, which I can't imagine even doing. You know, where you send them with tweezers.
Yeah, I know.
You know, but it's just something that people should be aware of. That if they're, you know, I think it's very important information. You know, read this article. Just be aware of it when you talk to your doctor, so you're informed.
Yeah,
and that you know, and that if you are coming off of antidepressants or any sort of medicine, and you start having adverse reactions, go back in and talk to your doctor about maybe that you need to do a more gentler approach because. And you know, unfortunately, this research is just going to start coming out. But when it does, doctors will become more informed and be more, you know, helpful in coming up with, because they literally don't even have the strategies to do it yet.
Yep.
Because it's never even been considered. So
yeah, that's the thing. Like you said, it's like don't let this be a reason to not go. You know, seek help or to be on an antidepressant or whatever. It's, you know, because some people are on them for long periods of time. Sometimes people, like you said, they're on them. Like they said, the original intent of them was to keep people on them for like 6 months, basically to help you through a tough time. Or like if you have seasonal
affective disorder.
Yeah, thank you. You know, if you had something like that, you stay on it through that, and then you go off of them. But that's not how most people are using them anymore. You know, because they're being prescribed and.
And it worked.
Yeah.
You know, maintenance therapy worked.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it just did. People were better off.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of thing. The problem is that then when people, you know, everyone's going to be different, but some people, they stop taking it because, okay, that thing is past or whatever it is. And all of a sudden they're worse off when they're not taking it. Well, you know, that's a problem. And that's why at first I was a little reluctant about this article because I was like, boy, this could be really, you know, this could be damaging. But when you really read through it all and you look at what's going on, I think it's this is about being an informed patient.
Yeah, it really is. Because basically this information is something that in my head I would just attach with like the side effects part of a sheet, you know, like while you're on the medicine, it may cause bleh. If you go off the medicine, it may do this, you know, kind of a thing. You're like, okay, well, you just know, you know, and like that way, you know, and I'll be honest, I went through some pretty rough brain zaps. I had the nausea, and, you know, some other stuff, but, it wasn't pleasant, but I made it through it, you know, so, you know, again, don't let this also be a reason that you don't go off of a medicine if it's not working or it's, you know, you're not, you know, you want to go off it or your doctor would like to take you off of it, you know. So, but just be aware that you may get these things.
There's a woman who had real severe symptoms, who has a link in here she started a website called the Withdrawal Project. And it provides resources on psychiatric drug withdrawals, including guides to tapering off and that kind of thing. Awesome. So, you know, always, you know, whatever you do it with your physician. But it's definitely, you know, it's just, as always, more information is good.
Yeah.
So we will have links to both of these. We'll throw this Withdrawal Project link on there too.
Yeah.
So if you've experienced this, you know, that one of the things in this article it talked about is like a lot of people didn't even know.
Yeah. Well, that was me after I went off the Effexor. I started getting those brain zaps, and I was nauseous, like all the time nauseous.
Yep.
And I was like, well, maybe one of my other, cause I'm on a few medicines that can cause, nausea. And it's like, well, maybe and it's like, no, I was taking those before and I didn't have an issue. So, something's different. And the only thing different is that I'm not on that, and that's why I started looking up, to see if other people had the same thing. And when I saw, okay, they do, when I could get back into the doctor, I got back in, and basically, there's not much he can do for you at that point. Like, I was off of it already.
Oh yeah.
So at that point, he's like, I can put you on another one.
Yeah.
That's really the answer. Yeah. It's that, or, tough it out. So yeah, it's like I said, it's not pleasant, but it is something I would say most people can get through, but it's definitely not pleasant. The worst part about it for me actually was the length. Like, if I only had to deal with that for a week, whatever, I'd have been fine. Yeah. But the fact I had to deal with some of it for months, that's when, it's very annoying. Like, the brain zaps and stuff are super annoying because you feel so weird after them, and yeah. And it took a while. Like, I'd have one and it'd probably be half an hour to an hour before I felt right again. So it's, like I said, not fun. But as Heno said, make sure you do everything with your doctor. Don't see this and go, oh, I need to get off of this, and just cold turkey like I did, because it makes it worse. And there's potential that it could do some damage. So, because your brain, gets used to it. But anyway, this is a really, really good thing for people to consider, for sure.
Yeah, because the thing is, there's already enough stigma towards mental illness. Mm-hmm. Something like this, isn't going to help.
Yeah, because like me, I didn't want to go on an antidepressant at first, or for a long time, because I was like, well, what's it going to do to me, basically? And if you had handed me this, then I probably wouldn't have went on one, so who knows, because that one didn't work for me anyway, so who knows where it, but yeah, as I said, it's good to have this stuff, but it's, my doctor basically at that time was like, this is the easiest option, basically, and I tried it. So
it's one of the things that there's almost 1,000 comments on this article, and
that's crazy. Yeah. I know it's on the New York Times, but still,
But yeah, I mean it's a hot issue. Yeah, it really is, and I didn't want to read them. But I did, because I knew there was going to be, all sorts of different opinions on there.
Of course.
Because, rightfully so, you start calling something discontinuation syndrome. It's like, well, it's addiction,
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I mean, it is, it's just different. But like someone says the article is irresponsible. It's like, no, it's factual. This is the truth. Yeah. What would be irresponsible would be to not put this out there. Mm-hmm. And to pretend like, because there's a stigma against mental illness, to not talk about this. And I believe it. And that was kind of my first reaction, honestly, was like, oh boy, we don't need anything to make it harder for people.
I had that same thought when you posted a link in our group when I opened it, and I was like, oh man, because I was like, the first thought I had is like, people don't want to go on these to begin with. And now it's another bullet in the chamber for the people who don't want to go on them, and I'm not saying that, it's just sometimes these medicines work for so many people that I don't want anything, unless it's, of course, like this can kill you or something along those lines. Like, I don't want this kind of stuff, to stop people from seeking help or trying to see if, antidepressants help them. So hopefully it doesn't do that.
Well, and like one thing that was brought up really, that I think was a valid point in here, was about the idea of primary care physicians, prescribing antidepressants and people having an instant effect from it. But a primary care physician isn't going to be going, isn't a therapist,
Mm-hmm.
it could be a placebo effect.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that you've been given something now has a placebo effect and you feel better, that you may have been, that person may have been able to benefit from counseling, other things without antidepressants.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I think, like, when you bring up the idea of, go in and get the estimate, that's going and get the estimate from a mental health expert, know.
And that's the thing too. There's honestly, I was put on Effexor by my general practitioner. I didn't see a psychiatrist. I did after a while when I was talking to, I had a different doctor because the first one left. When I had a different doctor, and he was like, "Have you ever seen was like, have you ever seen a psychiatrist?" And blah blah. And I was like, "No." And I set it up, and and was like, "Huh." The conversation about the medicine is very different from what my general practitioner has with me. The general practitioner was kind of like, "Does it work? Cool." And, the psychiatrist dove in a little more, like when you're, about certain things, because certain things tell them this isn't working, or, maybe you need a higher dose or a second medicine, something along those lines. So it's, I felt more confident with the choice after I saw the psychiatrist, but either way, it was, so I'm with you on that. If you can go through therapy, I would say try therapy first, if you can, but, whatever works for you. And also depending on how severe your symptoms are, that's why I say, do everything with a doctor, go get help, make sure that, you're not doing something crazy, and definitely don't go off them on your own. So.
Yeah, for sure. And I think this is also just a good lesson for that, an open discussion is the right thing to do, rather than, having as much information as possible is the best thing to do.
Yeah.
There's a lot of opinions out there, and it's worth finding, talking to everybody, because there's a lot of people that have found good results from natural remedies. Some people, like you said, they only need to go see a counselor.
Yeah.
I was actually, having a conversation last night with a friend of mine who was talking about, we were talking about this topic, and she was sharing a story about her mother, how her mother was having no results from, a medicine she was put on, but she was an active alcoholic at the same time. And of course didn't tell
that is something I cannot stress enough, is be honest with your doctor. Yeah. The more honest you are, the better they can do their job. If you drink, when they're going to put you on an antidepressant, they're going to tell you need to stop, or you need to cut way back. Like I said, mine told me every once in a while 1 or 2 is okay. Not every day, not, so. Yeah.
And I cannot even begin to tell you how many stories I've heard about people who went in to their doctor with all of their physical problems, and the doctor was trying to figure out what their, pancreatitis was, or what their adrenal issues were. And what they were is they were alcoholics who refused to admit that they were alcoholics. And the doctor's just treating symptoms.
Right.
It's the same thing with, have you heard about the latest one with certain marijuana users?
No, I don't think so.
They're having these, it's a very small percentage, but they've literally doubled in states where marijuana has been legalized, because people are now using it every day, and some people are developing basically an allergy. It's an intolerance, and they end up having debilitating pain that only a hot shower seems to help. So they'll literally feel like their guts are being torn out from the inside, like burning pain, massive amounts of pain.
Wow.
They jump in the shower, they get some relief from it. Some people will be in the shower for 2 hours. They go into the hospital, and the doctor, there was one guy literally had his pancreas removed. He had, his appendix removed. He was on, some sort of all these various therapies.
Right.
And then eventually somebody made the connection, or he made the connection with his marijuana usage. He stopped smoking and it went away.
Wow. Yeah, that's why I was saying it's be honest with your doctor, because if you smoke all the time or whatever, don't tell them, oh, every once in a while I have. Same with drinking. If you have 5 or 6 every night or every other night, tell them you have that many, because they need to know that. So,
yeah.
Not to mention mixing any quantity of alcohol with an antidepressant can be bad news anyway. So.
Yeah, and a lot of them it just eliminates the effectiveness of it, and you shouldn't have even gone in to begin with.
Right. Yeah, that's why I said it's once in a while I'll feel that, but usually I'm pretty good about what I have, and I don't have an issue. But just because it works for me does not mean it'll work for you. So
yeah,
and like I said, you're really not supposed to have any alcohol, but.
Let's be realistic.
That was what I told my doctor. I was like, I'm not going to quit drinking beer. I was like, I'll cut back, but I'm not, I was like, I like beer. We go to these breweries and stuff. I go because I like the taste of the craft beers and stuff. It's like,
yeah.
And don't get me wrong. Yes, my mental health is more important than, having occasional beers, but it's like, I feel like I can do both, And again, I'm not going to go drink 20 because that's a bad idea. But yeah, so anyway, yeah, that's a good topic. I hope it helps some people. And
yeah,
like
sure.
I said, I can't stress enough. Don't only see this as a deterrent. Just see it as information to consider. Because it may not hit you that bad if you went off of it. I've known some people that have gone off, like Heno said, it's like they just go off them and they're fine, Yep. And I've known a few that have had some pretty wicked things. And I've talked to people on Reddit. And it was in I think the depression subreddit, when we were talking about it one day. And people were kind of sharing their stories about, when they went off their medicine and stuff. So it's, there's also that kind of information out there, but we've said plenty of times, don't self-diagnose, but if you want to see some more information, there's places out there to find it. So like the link I talked about. So yeah.
Cool.
I think we got a show. What do you think?
I think we do. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, like I said earlier, thanks for everyone who's, joined us and listened and reached out and told me that the show has helped, or told us, I should say, not me, just all of us. It's great. Anyone listening, if you haven't told us that it's helped you, please do, cause seeing stuff like that definitely lets us know that we're doing something right, but mainly because we just want to hear stories that, that someone got some help or whatever. It's just good to hear people, getting help, because like I said, for years and years, I was like, oh no, it's gonna, make me different and whatever. And it's like, yeah, it has made me different, but in a good way, so. And then I guess, I gotta pull up all the linkies here. As Jen says here, if you want to continue the conversation with us, you can contact us on our website at thecrazylifepodcast.weebly.com. You can email us at thecrazylifepodcast@outlook.com. The show's Twitter can be found at thecrazylifepod. And Jen can be found on Twitter at Jen's Crazy Life. And that's Jen with a G. And Heno, how about you?
You can find me on Twitter at Ida Heno. Find me on Facebook, Heno Heiter. You won't get a response from me for the next 3 days.
Right. Yeah, because this is going up the night we recorded it. Normally there might be a little window or something, but yeah. Somebody's listening to this on a Monday and, I hit him up. He just ignored me.
No, I'm sure they make Twitter for the iPad.
Oh, yeah, they definitely do. I've used it plenty of times.
Oh, too funny.
Yep. You can also find us on Facebook at facebook.com/group/crazylifepodcast. We've got some numbers over there and website links for some sites that can be really helpful. Like finding a therapist and all that kind of stuff or whatever. So please go check that out and join our group. Free to join. We don't spam you because I barely ever put anything on there except this show, which I should get better about. Anyway, you can find me on Twitter at Stunami. You can find my other podcast at salty_language or at saltylanguage.com. And that show's not safe for work. Am I forgetting something else there? No, I don't think so. Okay. We're part of the Tangent Bound Network, which can be found at tangentboundnetwork.com. So please go have a look at that site and see if there's some shows you might be interested in. If you listen to us through Apple Podcasts, iTunes, please rate, review, and subscribe if you haven't already. Especially if you have a good story. Like if you something from the show that you really liked or has helped you or whatever, leave that in the review. That's awesome.
That's cool too. Yeah.
If you're using Stitcher or Spotify or other apps, please use the like or share option. That way there's, a chance somebody else will see us and give us a chance. Also, if you would, we'd appreciate it if you retweet our show, link when on Twitter or share it on Facebook when they go up. We would greatly appreciate it. And I think that's all the links, right? Yeah, it looks like it. So, okay. So, we're not doctors, therapists, trained professionals of any kind. Just two guys sitting here, flapping our gums. And, if, like we've said various times through the show, if you need help, please seek help. Don't wait. Don't worry about that. It'll change you. All the things you think of, throw them all out because all you're doing is stopping yourself from getting help. That's all I did for years was talk myself out of getting help. So go get the estimate, see what's going on. From there you and your doctor can decide what to do. And if you're feeling, as though you may harm yourself or others, please reach out to somebody. Try not to be alone, whether it's get a friend to come over, call 911, call the suicide prevention hotline number, something along those lines, but try not to be alone and please, reach out for help. Even if you find yourself writing what could be a suicide note or like a plan of how you would do something, reach out then. That's, an earlier red flag and, maybe you can get help before it becomes something worse. And then last, as always, reach out to somebody. Reach out to us and tell us, what you like or don't like about the podcast. Reach out to people you haven't talked to in a long time. Tell them you love them or appreciate them or you miss them or whatever. Don't wait. There's so many people out there that have that story of, I should have told them that, now I can't do it. So don't wait. Plus you may help somebody who's having a really rough go. You may, make their day or, as I've said plenty of times before, your call might save a life. You never know. All right. Well, I think that is all the stuffs. So, yeah. All right. Heno, you want to take us out of here?
Yeah. Thanks everyone for listening and don't forget to enjoy the little things.